Well, good afternoon. It's me again. I think this is week 6. Nora, my youngest, is in her Johnny Jump Up right next to me, so we'll probably hear a little bit of her this week. I think we heard a little bit of her last week, but she's a little bit aggressive today, so not sure why, but she's just a little bit of aggression in her today. It's very much a Chandler trait, so we might hear her squeal and scream a little bit. But so let me answer some of the questions that I've been getting in. Starting March 16th, they moved my MRI to March 16th, so I'll go down to Baylor on that day. We'll do the MRI, regardless of what that MRI shows. We'll start the second round of chemo, and my prayer is second and final round of chemo. It'll be 6 months long. It'll be 5 days on, 23 days off, at a significantly higher dosage of the chemotherapy. So during the 6 weeks on, I was at 160 milligrams. The 5 on, 23 off will be close to 500 milligrams. So I've had the opportunity to talk to several people who have already been through this protocol. Some of them handle it real well. I mean, for the most part, they stay strong through it. They'll have a couple of days of fatigue, but for the bulk of it, they'll handle it real well. And then there's some people, man, that don't do well on it. They get really sick, really fatigued, and feel like they have the flu the entire time. And so we've already, in my home, begun to pray that God would be very merciful, like He was in the first round, in the second round. And so we'd appreciate your prayers on that. So that's kind of what the future looks like. I'm in a rest phase right now, so we're trying to get healthy again and trying to get my immune system bolstered. We're doing a lot of homeopathic kind of detox things, those kind of things, just trying to get me ready to go. Another prayer is when they do radiation, your brain swells. And so we're praying for that swelling to go away in my brain. I haven't had any adverse effects of that, but no doubt my brain is swollen. It can actually be swollen up to a year after they're done with radiation. It can show up in your MRI a year later. And so we're also actively praying that the swelling in the brain would go down and then would disappear, would just not be there at all. And so that's a big prayer request of ours right now. Now, here's the other big question that I'm getting, so I'll just answer it. And really, it's a cool piece. Although, I mean, you'll be able to tell when I tell you this, it's a little bit frustrating, but at the same time, it's a real blessing. I think it's a real blessing in regards to my relationship with Christ. Oligodendroglioma, which a good friend of mine jokingly says sounds a lot like Louis Giglio's name, and I told him he better be careful with that because Louis could probably have him killed, and no one would even look into it. And he asked me, how would he ever know that I even said that? And I was like, I don't know, people find out stuff like that. And so he calls it I can't even say it. Anyway, the problem with oligodendroglioma is that in the end, the medical community is never going to go, you're healed. There's always a chance that it comes back, always a chance that it creeps back in. And so really, they're not going to be able. So the only way to know that God healed me is to live for 30 years. That's how we find out if God heals me, that I get to be 60, 70-year-old man. And so, now, here's why I say that's kind of cool. Of the guys I've got to talk to who have battled cancer and won, one of the things they say over and over again is when they were diagnosed, when they're going through the protocol, when they're going through their treatment, is feel so near to the Lord, so aware of their own mortality, so aware of their own weaknesses, so aware, and then what ends up happening is that begins to fade as they get healthy again. And then they miss it. Like they wish. I even had just a really powerful man of God tell me that, man, it's almost time for him to, he wishes he could have that veil lifted again. So for me, it's not going to go, there's always going to be that danger, there's always going to be that, and I couldn't help but think of how often David, I can think of two in particular, the one that really rings in my heart is Psalm 90 verse 12 that says, so teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. And so I love that text. I think he says it again, or something similar to that in Psalm 39. And so I get to live the rest of my life with this being in my mind, and I'm not speaking physically now, but I'm speaking spiritually now, that this is a possibility. This could come raging back at any second, that this could, and so I believe that God's healed me, and I've got 30, 40 years in me. The only way to find that out is to live that long, and to keep taking MRIs. So, yeah, so I'd appreciate your prayers on those things, on healing up over the next few weeks, on the second round of the protocol, really my body being able to handle it. We're going to try to pick up some of the travel schedule. I'm scheduled to be in London in May. Scheduled to do a couple other things this summer. I'm coming up to Epiphany Fellowship, Lord willing. But now more than ever, understand what Paul meant when he said, those are plans. And I'm hoping, Lord willing, that I get there. I'm hoping, Lord willing, I get to Philly. I'm hoping, Lord willing, I get to London. I'm hoping, Lord willing, I get to go preach the gospel again this summer at a couple places. Hoping that I make it to Cape Town in October for the Lausanne conference. I'm hopeful for all those things, knowing full well that that my plans are my plans and His plans are His plans. So if you're coming to the village this weekend, we'll be in Colossians. We're gonna talk about really Christ. We do that every week, but specifically we're going to talk about Jesus Christ being pre-existent, that He was before all things, and in Him all things hold together. So get back into that, Colossians 1:15 through 20. Read it, meditate on it, think on it, write out questions you have on it, and we'll dig in pretty good this weekend on Him being before all things, and in Him all things holding together. All things hold together. What it means for Him to be head of the church, and so we'll dive into that. I think you just need to keep Hebrews 1 and Colossians 1 open right now and just keep reading through the both of them. They're very, very, they complement each other very well. And so dig around in those texts, come ready, prayed up, asking the Lord to move in your heart. We need to really see how magnificent and beautiful Jesus Christ is. It's by beholding that we're transformed. And so I love you very much. Thank you. Be blessed, and I'll chat with you next week.